Hi, and welcome to Meet the Practical Intuitive. My name is Robin Fritz, and I'm your host today. In this webinar, I'm going to tell you about me, about my background, why I do what I do, but most important, I'm going to tell you what it means to you and what you can expect from working with me. So thank you for joining me today. And feel free to post questions and comments in the chat box. Be happy to hear from you. So what my work means to you and what to expect. My name is Robin Fritz, and I'm a certified and tested intuitive and spiritual consultant and past life regression specialist. And my work is about helping people find their way to love. I know this from personal experience. So our biggest problem that all of us have is that we don't love ourselves as much as we could and should, a lot, whether we're alive or dead. And I learned this first from the dead who weren't making it to the afterlife. And I'll explain that more as we get deeper into the presentation. But here's what my work means to you as someone who's trying to help all of us learn what love means in our lives. We don't enjoy our lives or in our work as much as we could, which means we don't achieve what we could, and that we and our families or friends and our communities and the world itself isn't benefiting from your achievements. And that's really sad, and we need that to stop. So I created an intuitive and consulting business to do three things: to help people tap their own intuitive and healing abilities, because we all have them; to help people claim their power and be their best selves; and to help people who need a trained, tested, and certified intuitive and spiritual consultant to grow in self-love and to grow their souls so that they can be successful at home and at work. Because sometimes we all need help. So here's a little bit of an example of the various kinds of services that you can work with me on. I do personal and business intuitive consultations, which means I can help you look at a personal or business issue. It could be as complex as making decisions to change the course of your business, or simply to look at options. For example, I have clients who are writing books, and it's trying to choose between book projects. What does that look like from an intuitive and spiritual perspective? So personal and business intuition and animal communication sessions can be done in 15, 30, and 60-minute sessions. So for animals, I help people have what I call family harmony sessions with their animals, behavior issues. When I look at health issues for people, I make sure that they take whatever information I give to their veterinarian so the veterinarian can explore it. I also do a lot of grief support in the dying and the death phase of our animals' lives. And I work with lost animals to try to help them find their way home. As a psychic medium, I help people connect with their beloved deceased, whether they're humans or animals. And as a space clearing expert, I help people clear their homes or their businesses of stuck energy that's either keeping them from moving on or being more successful in their business. For example, real estate transactions, buy and sell. I help people clear their energy from a place they're trying to sell, or clear the energy of a place they're moving into. So I work with real estate agents as well in those kinds of situations. So I'm a trained, tested, and certified intuitive, and I also offer personal and group mentoring workshops and webinars and talks. As a spiritual consultant, I'm a certified past life regression specialist. So that means I use soul regression hypnotherapy to help people look at past lives or between life issues that are affecting this life. I also use intuitive insight and spiritual training to do a process I call soul progression clearing, which is a process I created to help people clear issues and blockages that might be keeping them from moving forward in their lives. My spiritual awakening and spirit guide services, I can help people tap into their spiritual team and really lovely soul journeys where people explore really deeply what their souls are up to and really what they've done in previous lifetimes. Now, for example, past life regression has typically become something that people look at to deal with fears and phobias and issues that may seem intractable right now for us. But what I've also experienced is helping people tap abilities and skills that they had in previous lifetimes and bringing those skills into the present lifetime. So it's fascinating. And there are times too when we look at what we learned in those previous lifetimes. So those would be between life sessions, and as well as looking at what you were thinking of when you came into this lifetime, why you chose the family you chose, and what you were expecting to get from that. And then we look at that together as how this information can help you grow your soul now and be even more successful in your current lifetime. I also use Reiki. I'm a Reiki level 3 practitioner and crystal energy healing to help people fill up their bodies and their souls with healing positive energy, especially if we're removing blockages or issues. So I'm, again, trained, tested, and certified in this work, and it can include intuitive insight, various shamanic modalities, and hypnotherapy. And I also offer personal and group mentoring, workshops, webinars, and talks. So, but there are a few things that are different about me and my work, and I'd like to explain that here. There you see me holding a crystal ball, and you see the crystal in a bowl of lavender and Himalayan sea salt. The crystal's name is Fallon. He's a citrine Lemurian quartz. And no, I didn't give him the name. That's the name that he gave me when we met up in 2009. So I have come to understand that Fallon and I have worked together in many previous lifetimes, and that we have come back together in this lifetime to do our work together. And I know I'm a very rational, skeptical person, so it was a huge surprise to me to meet a crystal ball who said he was my partner and had been in previous lifetimes. But the one thing that I work on as an intuitive and spiritual consultant, and I work on with my clients, is to be open to the possibility of being surprised by joy, and to be surprised and tap into work that you didn't honestly know you were going to do. And Fallon is also the reason why some of my work is very different. I sometimes call myself a maverick or a pioneer, and it's because working with Fallon has helped me tap into skills and abilities that I had in previous lifetimes, which is one reason why I am so happy to work with people on past life regression issues. So Fallon and I were together for many lifetimes. And when I come up with an idea for a service or a method of doing something that is different than the other people around me, I've discovered it's partly because Fallon and I have done that in previous lifetimes. And I know this because when I work with my dad, as I'll talk about in a few minutes, in working with a dad, I suddenly created a process of moving a lot of the stuck dead to the other side. And the goddess that I work with chimed in and said, "This is what you and Fallon did eons ago, and it's time for you to do it again." So My life is an example of someone who started out doing something else and became what I am now, because I followed my heart, I followed my way to love, and I followed the things that happened in my life. And this is one reason why I can help other people on their journey. One of the things that I've learned too is what I call the mindset of planetary connection. And I learned that because when I was first opening to my intuitive abilities years ago, once again, after having blocked them as a child, I worked a lot with non-humans, and I came to understand that everything around us in the world is alive. Everything has a soul, has consciousness, has rights, responsibilities, free choice as to whether to meet those responsibilities, and everything has an opinion. And believe me, everything really has an opinion. And what I learned is that we're equals with all life. And so when I say that everything is alive, I really mean it. And I think one of the reasons people are so drawn to animal communication, and especially connecting with their animal family members, is that we can look at an animal and see it respond to us, but we don't necessarily see a tree or our homes or our businesses or cars or volcanoes and hurricanes responding to us. But in actuality, they do. So part of my work is helping people understand that the world is bigger than we realized. And the mindset of planetary connection means that, and I learned this from the non-humans who said, hey, it's about time humans started, talking to us. I learned this because we humans believe in a mindset that I call planetary healing, that we're caretakers and guardians of the planet. And really, that's not true, and it limits our thinking, but it also limits how we achieve the things that we set out to do and how we find our way to love. So it's a very, very practical concept. Once you see yourself as equal with all life, you become more relaxed and you feel more free, and you go out and explore the world as something where we're all collaborating together on a conscious evolving planet. And I guarantee you, when you look at this mindset and you adapt it, and I've seen it in my workshops, people leave with their shoulders back and all excited to connect with the world. And what they're really doing is tapping in to the world's energies and the beings that are living there with us, so that we can all grow our souls together, and everything really becomes easier for us, as well as much more fascinating. So here's how I got to where I am today. And it's another reason why I'm out doing what I'm doing, because I found my path to who I am and what I do as a very difficult one. I have had a life of adversity. And I like to make a joke about it, because the truth is that I started out in the world with advanced degrees. I have an MBA from one of the top schools in the country, and I was a newly minted MBA. I set out to conquer the business world. I was a former investigative reporter and a publishing executive. I was ready to take on the world, and I became handicapped. And for over 15 years, I couldn't work at all. And I lost everything, as you can imagine. When you're single and depending on an income, I lost my finances, I lost my self-confidence, I lost my financial security, I lost my purpose in life. And I struggled for many years just to be well, just to conquer the issues that were keeping me from working, from even participating in the world, which is how some of the beings came to talk with me. I was a hermit in the middle of downtown Seattle. But throughout all of that, I still had friends and family, and I was very stubborn, rebellious, stubborn streak, so I refused to give up. And I also had a sense of humor, which is why that whenever I thought about giving up, I recommitted to a life of purpose and meaning, as long as it was fun, which is how I bought a $175,000 dog. So I know people are going like, what? Okay, so it wasn't a dog that I bought. It was a condo, so I could buy a dog. But that's really when everything changed for me, because in the years following, I learned what love meant. It's tough, it's no nonsense, and it's the foundation of my life and work today. So here's what happened. So in 1998, I adopted the dog that you see there, the brown and white Cavalier King Charles Spaniel, red and white, if you will. And I noticed right away that she was unusual right from the start. She was more street smart than I was. When she was 6 months old, she could evaluate people on the street and literally change how she approached them. So I'm looking at that going, wow, that's really interesting. But the very disturbing thing that I noticed, and I know that other people are also noticing this in their lives, is that my dog was having the same health issues that I was having from day 2 of living with me. And she came to me that way with these health issues. And I was horrified. I was like, oh my God, this is not right for her to have these health issues. It isn't right for either one of us. And trying to resolve those issues for both of us is what started me on a healing journey and got me to where I am today as a healer. But it also helped me understand that there are more things out there to help us heal. So I touched into acutonics and herbs and homeopathics and animal communication and energy healing. Anything that made sense that would help us both get well. We eventually did get well, which was part of the purpose of us coming together in the first place, as we had been together for many lifetimes. But something else happened, and that's why the word earthquake is on there. On February 28th, 2001, about 10 minutes to 11 in the morning, Murphy Brown, that brown and white dog, was curling up to take a nap. Now, Cavalier King Charles Spaniels are 20-pound dogs, and they're like giant little love bugs. They don't get upset about anything. Well, as she was curling up to take a nap, all of a sudden she leaped up in the air and started barking and snarling and sunk her teeth into my jeans and is tugging on me to get out of the house. And we did. And 2 minutes later, Seattle was rocked by a 6.8 earthquake. I was like, well, okay, get us out of the house. And in those 2 minutes, we both acted to save each other's life. And things were falling down around us in the condo building. And I finally realized what it was in an earthquake. And when it was all over later, I looked down at her and I went, wait a minute. You knew that earthquake was coming before it hit us. That's why she went crazy. That's why she was suddenly not the typical dog that I knew. And that's when my scientific, analytical, skeptical hat really took a turn. And I looked at that and I said, wow, there's more things going on in the universe than I ever imagined, and I need to find out what that is. So that's when I put on my, what I call my science-y hat. I wanted to find out what was going on. Clearly my dog was a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel earthquake early warning system, which is a huge step ahead of what science has now, right? Because she tried to get us out of the house and save us before the earthquake hit. We can't do that here yet, anywhere in the world. So that was one thing. I wanted to find out what was going on, and I looked at everything. I did a lot of reading, just as I was doing a lot of studying for our health issues. I did a lot of reading. I did a lot of research. I was playing with trying to figure out how to talk with her even before I understood what animal communication was. But science only took me so far, and that's where intuition came in, and that's where I started exploring how to talk with animals and what was going on in the world. And then that's when I really started growing and talking to other things. And all of a sudden I found myself talking to a car that announced it was my car, and I literally, okay, you can laugh with me, I literally sent 3 dealers on a 5-state search for my talking car, and I found it, and it's still the family car since 2004. But I also started talking to Mount St. Helens and to all of the things around me. So at the time, I was suffering badly from autoimmune issues, including migraine headaches, and I was working with a neurologist, and I naturally assumed, being the analytical person, I'd heard people talk to animals, but cars and volcanoes, so I assumed I was either insane or had a brain tumor. So being responsible, I went to my neurologist and I said, I'm hearing voices. And he like froze, and he's like, oh my gosh. I knew he was thinking, oh my gosh, what's wrong with her now? And he said, what kind of voices? And I said, well, I'm hearing my car talk to me. I'm hearing volcanoes, Mount St. Helens. And this wonderful man who is into energy medicine, is into intuition, is open to the world, which is a perfect person for someone like me to go to, looked at me and he smiled and he said, how is that any different from talking with animals, which I know you do? And I said, you don't think that's different? And he said, no, Robin, I think it's normal for you. And that was a turning point in my life. I was reassured that I was not insane. I left his office that day with Mount St. Helens in my car, making jokes about me. And I've gone like, okay, so I'm talking to my car in a bratty volcano. But it was a huge sense of relief. And that is what freed me to explore and do what I'm doing today at a time when no one else I knew was talking with other beings like volcanoes and cars and buildings like I was doing. So it was fun, hilarious, deeply moving, and frankly disturbing until my neurologist said, hey, you're fine. So that set me up to being who I am today. So let me explain what I learned in my life and how that applies to you. So Murphy Brown was the second time this soul showed up for me in my lifetime. She actually, well, we'll talk about it in a minute. She was a central element of my life. And I joke and I say she was my $175,000 dog. And I explained how her health issues mirrored mine, how she was more street smart than I was, and how I was so desperate for healing. I was literally looking for lures for dogs and trying to help her resolve her health issues and me resolve mine. And I am happy to say that it took us 5 years for both of us, but we both got well together. And in terms of how this applies to you and why you would want to work with me is I learned from my experiences, as we all do. And certainly I've had very intensive training, but from Murphy, I understood what life was. I had basically given up on life. I was so sick and so hurting and so discouraged. And I watched a little dog struggle for wellness. And I knew in looking at her after a little bit of time that she was a reincarnation of not only my previous dog, Maggie, who was an English Cocker Spaniel, but she was the same soul as a woman in my childhood I was very close to and is very close to all the children in my little community back growing up. So I'm learning in my life what soul purpose is, what soul growth is, learning in my own family that this person that I knew as a human came back into my life as my dogs and is still present in my life today in my current dog. So I learned from Murphy and from our work together to keep looking for answers, which is why I have a variety of services for my clients. And I learned that our alternative healing works, including energy healing. And I learned that having humility and respect grows our souls, because there are a lot of people who wouldn't look at an animal and realize that they could learn from them. but I learned a lot from Murphy. I learned that we needed to manage and understand our energy boundaries because we were both wide open empaths. So I learned a lot from Murphy. So my dog Alkai was a surprise. He also was the same soul that Murphy was. So we had a very unusual thing going on in my house. Not just Fallon, which I want to make sure you get a good view of Fallon. Not just Fallon, but the same soul in two bodies at the same time with two different soul purposes. So I'm learning in my own life things that I can help other people with in their lives. And one thing that we're noticing in the world is a lot of times our animals are coming back to us again. But Alkai was a surprise. I was not planning on him. I was really connected to his mother, who was also the same soul, this is the most active and advanced soul I know of. And I didn't know he was mine until he was 3 weeks old, and I picked him up and I tucked him under my chin, and I felt like an electric current going through me. And I went, oh my gosh, this one is mine, which I did not know I was buying another dog, a tricolor Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. And I also knew that he was the same soul. And from Alkai, I learned what love meant in my life and in the world. Even though I knew who he was, the first 2 weeks with me, I was so frustrated. He was uncontrollable, and I'd given him a different name. And I finally threw my hands up and said, I don't know what to do with you, but we need to change your name. The energy of the name I gave you is not working. What do you want to be called? And he goes, what do you want to call me? I said, you give me a name. I said, that didn't work the last time, little guy. And he insisted that I name him. So finally I thought, okay, this little boy adores me. I want to adore him. I need to give him a name that means love to me. And what is the thing I love most in the world right now? I mean, besides my family and Murphy, my family. And it was the place I lived, Alki Beach in West Seattle. So I said, how would you like the name Alki? And he was like, yippee! So that was the beginning of my learning about love from this little dog and learning what love meant in my life. That loving ourselves and loving others is the key to soul growth. It's okay to make a mistake like I make all the time because we grow from our mistakes. Just keep growing. Don't let the mistakes block us. Keep growing and learning. And that's what I learned from my beloved Alki, who died way too soon. So, Grace the cat. Okay, Grace the cat came along as a pure accident. We could not have cats in my family because my mother was extremely allergic. So along comes a sudden and unexpected trip to the pet store to buy dog cookies for the dogs. And as I walk in the store, I hear a bird chirp and I go, wow, are you adopting out birds too? Because they were already fostering kittens and cats for a local West Seattle rescue group. And they go, no, that's a kitten. And I turned and I looked, and here's this tiny little black and white kitten. And I walked over to her and I chatted with her. And I knew immediately that this kitten was the reincarnation of Tweety, my bantam chicken when I was a little girl. And I looked at her and I said, oh, well, my house is full. Have a great life. Glad to meet you. I went home, walked through the door, and Murphy and Alki are standing there. Where is our cat sister? And I'm like, you do not have a cat sister. I was wrong. They were right. 6 hours later, we had Grace the cat. So from Grace the cat, I already knew how to laugh, but I really learned to laugh with that cat. She taught me new ways to laugh. And one of the things that I work with my clients on is that play is sacred and necessary. And I sure learned that from Grace the cat, as well as from the dogs. And I also learned to live with an alien, because cats are pretty alien species to me. She was the only cat I'd ever really known. I had no idea even how to take care of a cat. She was far younger than they told me, and I fought for her life for a whole year. So she was an alien. And I like to joke that she prepared me for when the real aliens showed up, because they did and have. And she also prepared me for whatever any client needs, to be open to the unexpected and to be open to solving and helping solve issues as they're presented to us. So from my animals and from the people that I meet, I've learned a couple of things: how to create families with animals, which is part of my animal communication work; how life, love, and laughter help us grow, heal, learn, and give back to the world; how being equal with all life makes things easier and better for us as humans; how to persevere, how to never stop learning and learning wherever it strikes you, and be humble enough to learn from animals and trees and whatever, because they are equal to us. So really learning respect and humility, and to understand that soul growth and soul experiences can take us directions we never planned on going and never saw coming, but are really opportunities for us to grow our soul. And that's central to my life: the mysteries of the universe, how they matter in our lives, how soul growth and soul experience matters in our life. But that wasn't the end of it. As those three animals, my beloved family, and something else happened. My current animals are reincarnations of my animals who died in the last few years. So while I eventually realized that Murphy and Alki and Grace were reincarnating and started to understand the whole soul process of reincarnation, which is substantially different than what our religious or cultural traditions tell us, reincarnation happened in my family. And Alki, who died in November 2014, came back as Oliver Alki, who was born July 28, 2015 in Louisiana. This dog announced himself in January of 2015. It was May before I realized that he was Alki reincarnating. And then I had to pick him out of a litter over 2,000 miles away and convince the breeder that his top choice for a show dog was really my Oliver. And he joined the family in October of 2015. And Grace the cat died last September 21st, 2016. She told me she was not coming back. And these are the conversations I have with people over their animal family members as well as their humans when we have mediumship sessions. What are you going to do next in your soul's growth? What are you planning? And how can I support that? And Murphy, my first dog, my beloved soulmate, chose not to come back. She chose to remain on the other side and do her work from there. Astonishing work. And Alki decided that he needed to be in a dog body to complete his work, which was interrupted by an early death. And he needed to do it with me. Grace the cat said under no circumstances was she coming back. And she would mentor another kitten to take her place and to do her work with me. Grace is what I call an energy amplifier, which in old terms would be the witch's familiar. But essentially what Grace did was amplify energies that allowed me to connect to large beings on the planet, planetary systems. And I decided after Grace died, I wanted another cat, and I researched and came up with Russian blues. And every cat breeder that I tried to make a deal with, the deal would fall through, until suddenly on May 1st of this year, I got an email from a local breeder saying, "You're on our list," which I didn't quite realize. "And you want this kitten? She's yours if you want her." I'm like, "What?" And I sat down and I looked at the picture and I was like, oh my gosh, it's Grace back again. Which means Grace decided that she could not train another cat to work with me and she needed to do it herself. Which means that the world coming up here in the next number of years is going to be full of major changes on a planetary level. So buckle your seatbelts. We're in for it. But we're here, and Grace and I agreed to do this when we set out to come back in this lifetime. And she's now in this wonderful, healthy, happy body, and really only a few months old. So it's just giving you an idea of who we are and what we do. But here's my dad, Ray J. Fritz. Okay. My dad died in 1994, so a long time ago. But in the early 2000s, he showed up while he was reviewing his life, as all people who successfully make it to the other side do. And he came to apologize to me. He said he could have been a better father to me. And he grew up in a mindset that women weren't as good as men, and felt bad about that after he reviewed his life. And he said if he ever had the opportunity to do it again, to be my father again, he would work with me as an equal. Little did we know that that would happen now, because as I grew in my work, my dad showed up one day and said, I want you to help me work with dead people. And I'm like, I don't want to be a medium. I mean, I don't want to just sit around and help people, confirm that their dead person is there and what their clothes are wearing and their favorite songs were. And Dad goes, well, yeah, we can do that. And we did. And it turned out that the way I do mediumship is different than other people. Again, it's part of my being a maverick or a pioneer, or just someone like Fallon helping me, of being able to look at things and see them from a different perspective. But one of the things, and this is central to my work, and this is why I'm bringing this up here in this webinar, is my dad said that he wanted me to help him help the stuck dead. Now, a lot of mediums don't believe in the stuck dead, but they're real. And people die and don't make it to the afterlife. And this is not punishment. This is not anything bad that happens in religion, or you're being punished for something in your lifetime. That's not how it works. What happens is that we don't love ourselves enough, either in bodies or after we die. And so we don't take that step into the afterlife, because we start to think about our mistakes that we made while we were alive, things that we did wrong, and we believe that we're going to be punished for them, or that we're going to have to pay for it. And they wake up in a place that doesn't look like we're told the afterlife looks like. And because they haven't loved themselves enough, they're afraid to take that next step. So what my dad was doing was asking me to help them, the ones who were stuck, that a lot of people don't believe really happens. And while I was doing that, I realized there were so many stuck people that it was creating an energy block on the planet. And I'm looking at that going, wow. And then this goddess that I work with showed up when I was working with my dad and some other people who were helping me. And I realized there were so many dead people that it's created a block, stuck dead people, that it's created a block on the planet. And none of us are able to do our jobs the best way that we can. We're not able to grow our souls. We're not able to have the greatest family or business relationships, because this huge energy block is stuck. And so I started breaking up the energy block by moving literally hundreds of thousands of dead over at once. And then the goddess that I work with popped in and said, this is what you and Fallon did eons ago, and nobody's been doing it. So I was like, well, okay, wow. And that's when I started taking a lot of the spiritual courses that I take and the certifications to work with people as a spiritual consultant as well, because I started realizing that the reason my dad asked me to help the stuck dead was to help the stuck dead because I could do that, especially with Fallon, but because I also didn't love myself enough, and my dad was trying to help me. So this is a reason why no one should ever feel embarrassed or insecure to approach me and Fallon to work with them, because I know what it's like to not love myself enough. And that's the problem that we all have together. So that's That's a huge, big thing. So we need to claim our power and really grow ourselves. And that's the power of self-love, that the key to life and death is self-love. So I can help you as a spiritual and intuitive consultant because I struggled for meaning just like you did and are or might be, which is why I opened a spiritual consulting practice. And I needed and yearned for intuitive insight, and I worked really hard to open myself intuitively and open my intuitive consulting practice so that I can help other people step into their power as intuitives and healers, which is your birthright. So that's what I do, is help people find their way to love. And that's what my work is all about. And that's how I can help you find your way to love and claim your power as a soul. So love is the foundation of everything that I do. And I know from hard experience that the one thing that matters in the world is love. It's the tough, no nonsense, exhausting love that can and will change the world. And you are needed. Every single one of us is needed. And it doesn't matter what body you're in. If you're in a human body, great. If you're in an animal body, great. If you're a tree, a plant, a volcano, a hurricane, you're needed and necessary in the world. And that's what I'm out there to do, helping people find their way to love. It isn't easy. It took me many years. I have literally been disabled for many years, physically disabled. But it's why my work matters to me. Love isn't easy, and it took me years and much trial and effort before I found my way to love, before I found my true family and my life's work. And I don't want that to be as hard as it was for me, for everybody else. So that's what I'm doing in my work, helping people find their way to love, to find their soul's purpose, to be happy and joyful in it, to really make their contribution to the world, because the world needs each and every one of us. So every service that I offer has love as a central theme. So just to give you an idea, here are my books as I wrap up my work. As I wrap up the webinar today, here are the books that I've written. You can find them at my website, robinfritz.com. Two of them are ebooks. Bridging Species is a paperback as well as an ebook, and you can find links to purchase them online. But also, here are bonuses that I'm offering today for those who participated in the webinar. 15% off all consultations booked after the seminar. Any consultation, intuitive or healing, just email me at robin@robinfritz.com. Also, if you sign up for my newsletter, I have free books on being your best self, on intuitive connections, and on space clearing. And you're welcome to download those at my website. And up here on the top are ways that you can find me at my website, at Om Times, where I offer a radio show every Monday. My mind just every Monday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. And my Om Times Experts page where my Om Times Experts page where you can see me live at Facebook, at Om Times magazine page, Facebook every week live there. And you can also find me at the Wellness Universe, at a number of other places on the internet. So website links are here. You can just click on those and find me there. But I thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate having the opportunity to present my work and how it matters to you. And if you have any questions or comments, please email me at robin@robinfritz.com. And thank you for joining me today.